Hello and welcome to my world. I'm of course Fred Kasdan. As you know, 7 nights a week I stream live over on Twitch playing a variety of video games. The link to my Twitch channel, of course, can be found in the description below. This week we finished Marvel's Avengers, which actually came out a couple of weeks ago. We did the main campaign over the course of 4 streams. And overall, I definitely enjoyed the journey of Kamala Khan and her quest to reunite the Avengers and take down AIM and find justice for the Inhumans, or at least implied that there will be justice for the Inhumans. But uh, there is a lot to be said about this game in so many ways, and I'll try and convey my thoughts as simply and eloquently as possible. The plot in and of itself can definitely be said that it borrows a lot from the X-Men continuity in so many ways. As someone who is very much aware that the only reason why the Inhumans are really a thing these days is because Disney basically told Marvel not to push the X-Men as hard as they were, particularly in the 90s and early 2000s, because Fox had the cinematic and production rights to anything X-Men related. It's why the X-Men were so downplayed in the comics. It's why anything. It's why when Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite came out, there was nothing X-Men related in that game. Held to the point where basically Black Panther was basically substituting for Wolverine. So they're definitely this game is definitely a product of those particular mandates being what they were. That said, the plot definitely works. You got, a big tragic event that leads to the creation of beings with superpowers. Basically, anybody that's seen Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. already knows where that's, in its own way, where that's going. These people are being told they're sick and so forth, and AIM, the big villainous organization that basically is conned the world into saying that all these people are now dangerous to themselves and others, basically is rounding them up very much and having robots and tracking devices, being able to locate the Inhumans all over the place, and so forth. So again, a lot of things are borrowed heavily from X-Men, without question. Graphically, the game is definitely a gorgeous game, but it definitely has its issues. There were some issues of rendering. There were some graphical glitches and flickering, and I was playing the Xbox One version of this, so some of it was really noticeable. And there is a clip on my Twitch channel of one of the more notorious graphical glitches when you finally get the Avengers back together, everyone getting ready for the final mission, and Tony Stark says, let's, if we're gonna do this, let's look good doing it. And what ends up happening is, like, the moment is basically ruined because the rendering on Captain America's head is wrong. It just looks so incredibly bad that you just have to laugh. The voice acting and music and sound effects are all top notch. Possibly the best sounding game I have played this year, mainly because it's the newest game, and sound mixing and voice acting has always gotten better. And as far as I'm concerned, there was a nice little Easter egg with the fact that Jennifer Hale voices Commander Maria Hill, and Hill only has a couple of lines over the course of the main campaign. And if I didn't look at the credits when we finished the main story, I would not have realized that it was Jennifer Hale. And it was like, okay, that's great casting there. Now, a lot of folks have made comments about the portrayal of Tony Stark not being as Robert Downey Jr. esque as, say, compared to Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Maximilian Dude is definitely someone who's made a point of pointing that out. But I have to say, Nolan North doing something different with Tony Stark was actually a good thing. Because, you know, unless they're going, depending on where things go with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you're never going to see Robert Downey Jr. portray Tony Stark ever again. So it's like, okay, it's time to move on from RDJ's portrayal of the character. And I thought Nolan North did a nice job of giving Tony something different to work with. Granted, Nolan North basically does the same thing every single time, but it was definitely a strong difference than what we've seen, say, comparing to how Iron Man was portrayed in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, and in comparison to how the character is in Marvel's Avengers. In terms of direct references and other things, there are the fact that you have the Daily Bugle basically being your news feed, and seeing how the world is reacting to plot developments is a nice touch. But it does raise a particular question, though, and does bring up issues of, okay, wait. The Daily Bugle is Spider-Man related, and if memory serves me right, the Daily Bugle debuted as part of the Spider-Man continuity back in the 60s. So, with the issue of, and something that definitely a lot of people were kind of upset about, with Spider-Man eventually being an exclusive character for the Sony version, the PlayStation version of this game, it raises a lot of questions and concerns. Like, okay, we got the Daily Bugle here, and it's playing its life that it's a big part of the Avengers game and the plot line, but we're not gonna. The Xbox One version is not gonna get Spider-Man. That definitely stinks. But it's definitely pushing forth on the fact that we are definitely heading into a new era of a console wars. Xbox, Microsoft, and Sony are definitely turning up the heat on each other in terms of exclusives and games and content, DLC, more so than they have ever. And it's definitely looking more like how the console wars back were in the 90s. Except this time, the gamers are definitely going to benefit, particularly on the Microsoft side of things, because, heck, Microsoft is looking to provide more games and more content, and I could easily talk about their acquisition of Bethesda, but we're getting off track here. Difficulty. Marvel. I'm not particularly good at video games, and I initially played this game, and I was going through it on it being set to normal. On the third night of the playthrough, and fighting on board the Chimera and fighting off against AIM, I actually reached a point where my gameplay skills were exposed as being so bad, I actually needed to reduce the difficulty to easy. I straight up admit it. I mentioned it at the start of the fourth night stream. And even on reduced difficulty, it does take a long time to get through every mission and every chapter. Because you're going to be exploring. But the difficulty is primarily associated with the combat. If you are not really aware of your surroundings or how to get heals and how to initiate certain combat sequences, or have difficulty getting around and behind enemies, it definitely will catch up to you in a big bad way. And that happened to me on a particular chapter. Again, it was on the Chimera, defending the Chimera. You're playing as Miss Marvel, and you're going into Jarvis's core room, trying to defend it, and you're going to have a swarm of aimbots and everything in there that is just going to swarm you. And there are at least two that can take you out in a couple of hits if you are not aware of where they are at all times. But still, even on reduced difficulty, enemies, if you don't have any backup, the enemies will swarm you and can still take you out. So you definitely have to be on your guard. Now the big question is, would I recommend this game? Oh, most definitely. There is no doubt in my mind that I would recommend this game. It's definitely a lot of fun, and there is a shit ton to do beyond just the main campaign. You got side mission related things for all of the Avengers characters called iconic missions. And then you have the multiplayer aspect where definitely in open world war zones you get dropped in if you have matchmaking on. You can group with other players and take advantage of that, and the more players that are involved with that, the more difficult those scenarios are. So there is a lot to do. Matter of fact, a lot of achievements are the only way you're going to get certain achievements. One is raise every character up to level 50, basically, and then raise the power levels of the characters on gear and everything of that. Again, there is a lot to do. So if you're, because the main campaign, we'll say about 16 hours, at least with me, and numerous deaths, and even including reducing the difficulty for the final fourth of the game. The campaign, again, I'm being generous in saying is 16 hours. For other people, it's maybe 12 hours. But the bulk of it is going to be the multiplayer and any DLC content and any side things that you put off to do. That basically extends the gameplay out. There is microtransactions in this game as related to some sort of battle pass type system, and apparently every character has their own challenge track as well. So definitely a lot of things there. There are different skins, costumes, emotes, all sorts of stuff there to work with. So this game will definitely keep you busy in the long run. So with that said, those are my thoughts on Marvel's Avengers. I'd say check it out for yourself if you get the opportunity to get it digitally or get a physical copy. So till next week, my friends, again, come hang out with me on Twitch every night. We look forward to having you. Subscribe to this Pokey Little YouTube channel if you're so inclined. Obviously, I bring the streams over here and do the weekly commentary things and so forth. So y'all have yourselves a good one. Tighten your friendship bracelet. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you next time.